What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Tim in Green Bay, here to talk some Packers this evening. Tim, how you doing, bub?
Doing good, man. Happy to be here.
Good deal, man. We're going to dive into a couple of different topics here. Obviously, we'll take a walk around social media real quick, and then we will also dive into some of the free agents that are available. I put a list together, Tim, of about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, probably about 9 players, somewhere around there, that I would be okay with the Packers signing. That kind of caught my attention. Like, I think they'd probably be worth the money. Some of them more than others, obviously, but we'll dive into some of those names. And we'll show you the PFF grades as we go along with that and kind of show you why we came up with that. We'll also have the calculated market value for those 9 or 10 free agents. And then, of course, we've got our draft board we're going to look at as well, where we got the players earmarked that the Packers have shown interest in so far. So first things first, though, I'm going to jump over here to Twitter, Tim. Talk to these folks for just a second, man. Tell us what's on the forefront of your mind. I'm going to find this cat in here and go ahead and block him since he's his arse.
That's what I was going to talk about. Should we put him on the screen before we block him?
Sure, do it, Tim. Let's make him famous.
Well, Tweetless, is that Tweetless or Tweetles 28? Jordan Love is trash. Okay, I disagree.
I might drop him.
I disagree. This team won't go anywhere until he's gone. He's holding the entire franchise back. I also disagree. And let's feel better about Jordan Love's pathetic playoff performance because Mahomes played bad in the Super Bowl. Literal Packers fans, logic, LMFAO. Okay, cool.
Here's what I like about it, Tim. It's Tweetless 28. He's blocked, by the way. He won't comment again. He'll be able to comment on this one probably, so we'll just ignore him. But moving forward, he won't be able to comment. His profile picture is O.J. Simpson with the gloves on, and the Twitter handle is @JuicesLoose328. He's following one person, and he has no followers, which kind of tells you that it's somebody's burner is what it is. Someone I've probably blocked. They're so easy to spot. It's not even.
I mean, given the sentiment towards Jordan Love, I'm wondering if it's AFAM's burner, honestly.
It's showing that he's following 2 accounts. He's following Major League Baseball, and he's following Aaron Rodgers Truther. So there you go.
Here's a guy.
Absolutely love it. All right. So with that being said, let's move it along here to the topic of the day. Actually, let's go to Twitter first before we get into the free agents, because there was a couple things we wanted to touch on in there, obviously. And, Jacob Morley, if you guys aren't following him on Twitter, he's an excellent follow. He said the annual pre-combine question, if you had to narrow down Green Bay's selection at 23 to 5 names, what are your 5? Now, I would honestly, Tim, I would probably put the 5, at the top of the board. But let's be realistic, right? There's no chance Abdul Carter's following. There's no chance Mason Graham's following that far. So let's try to take a realistic approach here. So I looked at some of the players that, hey, man, if they fell in our lap, that would be absolutely awesome. And then I included a couple that have a decent chance of being there. So my 5 are edge defender James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee, defensive tackle Kenneth Grant from Michigan, Armand Mimbo, offensive tackle, one of our best offensive linemen in the draft, Mike Green, edge defender out of Marshall, and then Jahdae Brown, versatile corner there. Now, we have on our board, Tim, we've actually got Siobhan Ravel Jr. higher than Jahdae Barron. But the reason that I put Jahdae Barron in there is obviously for the versatility, right? Being able to kick around, play the slot. If somebody's got a number 1 receiver that kicks over to the slot and moves around a lot, he's got the versatility to kind of cover him all over the field as well. If you do end up going, I don't know, a little bit more man coverage for that specific game. So what about you, man? What would be your 5? I'm kind of putting you on the spot. I didn't prep you for this, but you don't have to come up with 5. But who are some of the names that really grab your attention there that you love to have fall at 23?
Jaden Higgins, and Jaden Higgins. No, I'm kidding. No, honestly, there's probably at least a couple on your list that I would take. Kenneth Grant for sure. Mike Green is another one who kind of jumped off the tape. Membo as well. And Jahdae Barron is a guy that I have next on my list to do a little bit of a study on. So I can't quite put him in in my top 5 for sure. But it's tough. I would say it's tough because, like you said, you got to look at who do you think is realistically going to be on the board at that time, and it's kind of tough to make that decision off the top of the fly. But Prince Capsaicin here, I like this: Stewart, Nolan, Grant, Barron, and Golden.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I almost included a wide receiver or two. If I were going to include one, it would hands down be Tetairoa McMillan, but I just don't see him being realistic to fall to 23. And the next 2 receivers, Tim, are actually Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State and then Luther Burden. Well, I've got Emeka Egbuka at 26 and Luther Burden at 28. So it's like, you know what I mean? If they're there on the board, I can see it being the pick. But in this specific situation, the way I took this question was like, if you have 5 now, if you could pick 5, that, hey, man, I'd be good with any of these 5. It just makes no sense to go below 23, right, on the board to try to find one. But either of those receivers I would be okay with for sure. But, man, Tetairoa McMillan is a fun watch if you guys haven't got a chance to check him out. Big body receiver. Does everything pretty well, in my opinion. He really does. So we'll see where he ends up. And I know we have him in the 6th spot, Tim. Dane Brugler has him at 7. Daniel Jeremiah has him at 15, and the 33rd team had him at 14. So everybody seems to be pretty much lockstep where they've got him at.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you mentioned Luther Burden too. Luther Burden's probably my favorite, under 6 foot receiver prospect. Him and I liked Iowa State kid, Jalen Noel. Also was another one that kind of caught my eye as far as receivers. But, bottom line, I'm hoping we go trenches, So really, like, if we want to put together a list, I'm going to start there for sure. If you give me a little more time, I could probably put together my top 5, and I guarantee you 3 out of those 5 are probably going to be trenches defensive players for sure.
Yeah. Daryl in the chat said, here's my 5: Demetrius Knight II, Clay Webb, CJ West, Donovan Ezereku, and Landon Jackson. Good stuff there, Daryl. Appreciate your input, brother. 2-0 for this says, from the way Ryan described it, Egbuka isn't the type of receiver we need. I haven't done like any kind of deep dive into the receivers or Egbuka. Let me just take a quick look, though, and see. I'm assuming he's referring to maybe a slot receiver as Egbuka. And then I'll explain my stance on that as well in terms of maybe disagreeing just a little bit because obviously you want someone with decent size. Egbuka's 6'1", 205. His snaps were, when you look at where they were lined up at, 343 in the slot and 70 out wide. So it seems like he is more of a slot than he is out wide. So I'm sure that's what Ryan was referring to. Now, when you look at yards per route ran, 2.51 above the 3-quarter mark. Receiving grade, 82.4. Almost completely maxed out. Contested catch rate right around the 3-quarter mark at 59.1%. Drop rates right above the median line, and then his grade versus man coverage is an 80.9, almost completely maxed out. So the reason I say I'm a little bit lenient that Jaden Reed can play Z. Now, do you want a bigger body receiver? Absolutely. But if it's someone who's got a significant amount of talent, let me put it this way. What if Egbuka is the next Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? If that's the case, are we going to go, no, he's a slot. Can't have him. I know I'm not. I'm going, we're going to make this work because obviously talent trumps where they line up. But I guarantee you that's what Ryan's talking about there, though, Tim, is kind of this thinking in the same vein that we have all off season, that you want one of those guys to kind of take Christian Watson's spot, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's fair when you look at body type and look at where he played in, Ohio State's offense. But like realistically, what is he going to look like in an NFL offense versus, a Matt LaFleur offense or a McVay offense or, whoever it's going to be? Sometimes those position moves can kind of identify themselves as you work a young player into your offense. Maybe a guy comes into camp known as a slot guy, and then you come to find out he's better on the boundary in your offense. So I do think, 6'1", 205 is Egbuka's measurements. I mean, if anything, he might be versatile, might be kind of a, more versatile receiver certainly has the body type to be able to, play on the outside as well as in the slot. So I think time would tell as he makes his NFL debut. So we'll have to see. But I could see him being like a comp to, like a Reed or somebody in our offense.
Yeah, and for me with Reed, think of some of the best plays he's made, guys. Think about it. I remember the wheel route last year, right? I can't remember what team they were playing, but it was the one where he caught it on the sideline, cut it back in across the field. You guys remember the deep post, right? The deep post against, was it the Rams maybe, Tim? Where he caught it in like double or triple coverage. He can play Z. He can play outside. So in an ideal situation, if you've got two receivers with the same exact grade on them, and one is a slot and one is an X, obviously you're going to take the X over the slot given our situation. But if you've got a receiver that's hands down better than the other receivers on the board when you're picking, whether it's 23 or in the second round or what have you, obviously, man, you go with the better player and you work that out as you go along. I just don't think that positions are as set in stone as some people, kind of think they are, simply because we've seen Jaden Reed do those other things. Some people look at Greg Jennings kind of like a slot, right? Well, look at some of the best plays that Greg Jennings made. I think of the overtime home run shot from Favre against Denver on Monday Night Football. Well, guess what? He was playing X. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of one of those deals there. So they've got to be able to move around and play different positions, and that's what Matt LaFleur talked about. Christian Watson, with all his height and all that speed, he played F his rookie year. He was doing what Jaden Reed was doing. He was just doing it, bigger body slots. So I don't think that Matt LaFleur necessarily looks at the player and goes, okay, he's simply a slot. We're never going to put him in the Z. We're never going to put him in the X type thing, So
yeah, I would agree. I would think you put him everywhere and see where he looks the best, and where are you most comfortable running him out there. A lot of times we look for versatility at major position groups, and receivers certainly one of those on offense. So being able to play, X, Y, Z slot wherever, we saw that with Scoot, like you said, rookie season. He was the one running a lot of those jet sweeps and jet motions. We didn't really see Reed kind of take over that role until, year two for Christian Watson, moved him more to the boundary.
Definitely. Coach Lynn says Stewart, Nolan, Grant, Barron, and Ayamanor, if I'm saying that right. All of those I would be okay with, honestly. Stewart, Shamar Stewart, we got in the 18 spot. That would be great value. Walter Nolan, we got right on the dot, 23rd. Obviously, Kenneth Grant, we're higher on. We got him at the 15 spot. Jahdae Barron, we actually have him in the 22 spot, one spot ahead of Walter Nolan. And let's see here. In Ayamanor, I'm going to say he's a little lower for me, right?
What position? From Stanford, right? The receiver from Stanford?
Yeah, I'm thinking he was a receiver, yeah. Let me see. I think we are significantly lower on him. Yeah, we've got him in the 79 spot. So I'd be okay with it if it was, second to third roundish, somewhere in that range. But 23 would be a little rich for me. And the reason he's down that low on our board, he was 90th according to Dane Brugler. The 33rd team had him at 43. Daniel Jeremiah did not have him inside his top 50. And his PFF grade in 24, he was the 160th highest graded wide receiver for what that's worth. So I like the list, though, there, Coach, for sure. Drew D, Derek Harmon, Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, Trey Amos, and Jahdae Barron. Amen. Amen. Now, Trey Amos has sunk on our board quite a bit. Okay, let me see if I can find him real quick and give you an update. You guys remember before he was kind of top 30. Well, now he's sitting in the 53 spot on our big board. And the main reason that he's dropped, he was not in Daniel Jeremiah's top 50. Kyle Krabs had him at 30, so that didn't hurt him too bad. But Dane Brugler's got him at 93. Matter of fact, that's what Drew's saying here. Did you see Dane Brugler has Trey Amos at 93 on the big board? Yeah, that's one of the reasons why it pulled him down pretty significantly on our board. And again, the PFF grade, 21st highest graded corner. He is an outside corner there out of Ole Miss. So PFF grade checked out pretty nice. The consensus big board had him at 45. And then, of course, Dane Brugler is pulling him down quite a bit. Now, Daniel Jeremiah may have him at 51. And if he does, that's going to boost him back up a touch. So we'll see where Daniel Jeremiah ends up putting him on his top 100, top 150 as he releases those. Shout out to our buddy William D. Lofton Sr. Becoming a member here on YouTube. Appreciate you, William. We'll make sure we get you entered into the giveaways. Anybody who's a YouTube member or a member of our PTA Patreon group, we do random giveaways throughout the shows here, throughout the year, I should say. Probably have another one coming up, I would say, next week. I like to try to build the giveaways around special events, like we had the Senior Bowl. We did one. Maybe we'll do one for the Combine, something like that coming up here real soon. So
nice.
William, thank you so much for that. So just wanted to hit on that from, like I said, from Jacob Morley. I think he's a great follow. Love the stuff that he does. Now, moving along, this is a really cool video. I tweeted out. It was actually from Barstool Sports. I don't know if you've been keeping up or not, Tim, but Jon Gruden has signed a contract with Barstool Sports. So he's doing kind of, the stuff he was doing on YouTube. Evidently, he's going to be doing it with Barstool Sports, so they have rights to that now. I think it's a good pickup for them.
Nice.
And obviously, Josh Jacobs was drafted by Jon Gruden. Okay. So, and listen, I understand the controversy around Jon Gruden, and I'm not here to defend him or bury him. All I do know is his players absolutely loved him, it sounds like.
He was the best guy around.
What murder? His guys definitely went to bat for him immediately following that. And if you watch that interview, I highly recommend you watch the whole interview and see how you could just tell Josh Jacobs he was absolutely tore up when Gruden left the Raiders, and obviously for obvious reasons, I should say. So anyway, here is him interviewing Josh Jacobs and talking specifically about the running scheme that Matt LaFleur put together for Josh Jacobs last year.
Say, we got to get under the center. I need to get under the center. I got to get him 8 yards deep so he can get some momentum going towards the line of scrimmage. And I see the Packers doing that for you at times. But you also have a very creative shotgun running game. And your offensive line, they pull a lot. You'll pull both guards, both tackles. Where are you now? What are the top 2 or 3 runs that are in your wheelhouse? Can you put it in my terminology a little bit? You still like Wanda?
My favorite is still Duo.
Duo
is my favorite because, you got the double team, what we used to call it the 600-pound block. And you basically just manipulating the linebacker. Basically, it gives you the most options, I would say. But we had a play last year that we had kind of created where we motion, and we in shotgun and we motion, and then we come down and then we pull the guard and the tight end back the opposite way. That was probably my favorite run because you could tell like the defenses was confused. They're like, hold on, what's going on? And then I feel like every time we called it, we either got a big run or it was a good game. So it was smooth.
You guys are running Duo out of the gun.
Yeah, we do.
A lot, man. You don't expect that play out of the gun.
I love it, man. I love they get in here talking X's and O's and Gruden. It's something that Gruden's obviously great at. I love what Josh Jacobs talked about. And you guys, if you've tuned into our show for any significant amount of time, we've called out Duo all year long. And when Matt LaFleur first got to Green Bay, you've seen a lot of split flow, split zone, what we call slice. You've seen a lot of that. And then they pressed in a little bit to wide zone and boot action off of it. And then all of a sudden the RPO game really came alive. So they leaned into RPO. And then it was like Aaron Rodgers is next to last year. You've seen a lot more Duo. And then, of course, they go and sign Josh Jacobs, and you think, okay, are they going to press more into Duo? He's definitely not a stretch back. He's not one of those guys you want to try to run outside zone and go off tackle with. He can, but it's not his strong point, right? So obviously last year you've seen a whole bunch of Duo. So many times, Tim, we were going, I think that's Duo. That looks like Duo. Obviously it was the majority of the time. And it's just cool to hear Coach Gruden talking with Josh Jacobs about that, and Josh Jacobs calling that play out by name that he really enjoyed it. For those of you that are wondering what Duo is, it's double-double. It's vertical power. It's essentially the same concept as a power play, but you're not skipping a gap. A guard isn't pulling over a full gap. You're double teaming. There's typically 2 double teams, and you're getting vertical displacement to the second level. Now, Tom Brady calling games this year many times called a inside zone run, what I thought was inside zone. He called it Duo, but there was just one double team. Okay. So evidently in Tom Brady's eyes, the greatest quarterback of all time, Duo doesn't necessarily mean there has to be 2 double teams with vertical power. He's simply saying one double team with vertical power he was referring to his duo as well. And honestly, Tim, we probably look too deep into this stuff. We look deeper than the players and the coaches do. They're just looking still a hat, still a gap, and get their ass up field. But pretty cool that got brought up this year for sure, man. You're muted right now, brother. I was trying
that's what Jacobs was talking about, right? He called it the 600-pound block, right. And then like he said, oh, really? You're just manipulating the linebacker, and that's where you see him, make that move to the inside, bait that backer, and then bounce it outside, and he's gone, or vice versa. And when it comes to talking football, man, you think of like old Vince Lombardi tape, right? Coach Belichick. Anytime Bill Belichick's talking ball, you want to listen, right? I think of John Madden describing football, busting out the telestrator on a live broadcast. And then, I think about Jon Gruden. Jon Gruden's definitely on my list of guys that you could just sit and listen to him talk ball for days. And it's awesome. I think it's cool that he's got the deal with Barstool. I look forward to some more content. We've had our own experience here in Green Bay with Coach Gruden, which is awesome. I remember those days pretty vividly in my younger days. And, I think he's a part of this game that we all love, feel how you want about him outside of the game. But anybody who knows ball highly respects Jon Gruden. He's one of the greater football minds, I think, in the last 30 or 40 years for sure in the game.
Yeah. And again, I think that Derek Carr, his former quarterback, said it best, man. He said, you hate the sin. He said, I love the man, but I hate the sin. It's pretty much put the best way forward, I think, there. So let's see here. William in the chat says, quick question. Do y'all think that the reason why Colorado wide receivers are rated so low is because of Deion? I don't really have any reason to believe that, William. I don't know enough about Colorado's football program in terms of what level of talent their receivers are at, other than obviously Travis Hunter's just an absolute dog. Shedeur Sanders, he's going to be probably, if he's not the first quarterback taken, he'll most definitely be the second quarterback taken this year. I'd like to think that has nothing to do with it. It's more along the lines of just maybe talent. And I'm not trying to put Colorado down. Again, I'm extremely ignorant when it comes to Colorado football. I haven't watched enough of it, although if they're on TV, I'm trying to tune in because Coach Prime, what he's done with that program is just absolutely amazing. For me personally, though, I think that he's still trying to build that program up, so there probably is a little bit of a lack of talent. I know they had a ton of transfers because as he said, he was bringing in his own bags and they were Louis. And obviously it's going to take a little time to get even bigger name prospects there and take that program to the next level. I want to say no on that. But, yeah, I mean, you never know. Maybe it is something that we know the culture that he's creating there and kind of giving the kids the freedom to promote their social media accounts and do things that they need to do to earn NIL and all that. It sounds to me like Coach Prime is very, very tough, very, very hard on the recruiting process early. And then once they get to school, it's like, hey, welcome to the show, baby. We're all about, you guys being able to expand your brand and all those things that come with NIL. But I would have to say no. Tim, you got anything to add to that? Man, you got an answer there? Because, again, Travis Hunter is the top prospect on pretty much everybody's board. So if that were a real thing, I imagine he would take a little bit of a ding there, even though he was the Heisman,
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you can attribute that 100% to Deion. I guess my question is who on our board, who is our highest rated Colorado receiver on our draft board? I'm kind of curious because
obviously we got Travis Hunter, right?
Other than Hunter, like, is it? I'm looking at Jimmy Horn Jr. or Will Shepard. I'm trying to think of who's higher.
Yeah, let me look on my board real quick if I can search it. I've got it searched by the cheese emoji right now for the project we're going to be doing here.
For the visits, I love it.
Let's see. So
Levante Wester, that's another one, maybe.
Levante, I remember us taking him in a mock. How do you spell Levante? If you don't care, there, Tim. L-A-V.
No, L-A capital Johnntay. Wester, W-E-S-T-E-R. Levante Wester.
Yeah, we've got him at 226. And you said, actually, if I search by Colorado, it might be able to pull all the players up.
Because I had him higher than Shepard and Horn, but it looks like I'm looking at PFF now. PFF's got Horn Jr., Shepard, then Wester as far as their ranks, and they're all pretty close to each other, all in the 200s.
So we've got Travis. These are all the Colorado players. We've got Travis Hunter at number 1. We've got Shedeur Sanders at number 11, although I think he'll be taken very, very early. Then we've got Torrey Horton at 76, actually. No, that's Colorado State. I apologize. Here we go. LeJontay Wester at 226. Okay. Shiloh Sanders, safety at 410. Dom Jones, he's out of Colorado State. And then we got Will Shepard, wide receiver, at 418. Now, this might be the best way to answer this question for you. When you say, okay, why are people lower on him? Let me explain to you exactly our formula, okay, and why, like Will Shepard, wide receiver out of Colorado, is so low. In 2024, his PFF grade, he was the 712th highest graded receiver, so that's going to hurt a lot.
Yep.
The PFF big board had him at 238. The consensus big board had him at 199. Dane Brugler, 33rd team, and Daniel Jeremiah, none of them have him in their top 50 or top 100, obviously. So
yeah, that's 6'3", 205 though, so he's got that going for him.
Some size, yeah. He's probably what you'll see there. I think is an undrafted free agent, possibly. Where do they have Shepard at on PFF, Tim? If you don't
224.
Mind 224. Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah. So I don't think there's anything there to do with that, William. I could be wrong. I can understand the sentiment there. Like, hey, are people looking at it like has Prime got these guys thinking a little more online of their brand as opposed to football? But anybody who knows Coach Prime, man, that you've watched his process up to this point and getting to where he's been in college football, he is old school. I did not expect that, Tim. I thought he was going to be kind of the young, try to act cool, flashy. Boy, when you see him interacting with his team, once they're on that team, he is as old school as it comes. I think that's really, really cool, man. So
yeah, I love it.
He's all about respect, all that. So, yeah. All right. So there you go with that conversation. Now I know I've seen our boy in here, Aaron Rodgers, our Aaron Rodgers, not the Aaron Rodgers, says, Clayton, you wanted me to remind you on what I brought to your attention earlier. I think he's talking about Jeff Okudah. Okay. And I'm just going to read our DM here earlier. He said, But watching your morning show from this morning, I just thought of something. Jeff Okudah. He said he has played under Hafley and says he said this before entering the draft as a top 5 pick. Quote, he's had a tremendous impact on my life, Okudah said. Without Coach Hafley, I might not be in this position I am. Cheap option for high upside. So obviously when he came out in the draft, Tim, Jeff Okudah was a top 5 pick, if I remember correctly, as he was saying right there. So when you look at that, yeah, there's high upside. There's no doubt about it. Listen, you don't get drafted number 5 overall and not know how to play football. Now, he's struggled. There's no two ways about that. Like if we were to look up Jeff Okudah right now and just kind of give you an update on how his career has gone, he's with the Texans right now, or was, I should say. His grades have been 42, 53, 59, 50, and 31. It has not worked out.
Yeah.
But I think what Aaron is saying here is one of the main reasons Jeff Okudah was so good in college and then obviously gets drafted so high in the pro is how he played under Jeff Hafley at Ohio State, if I remember correctly. So what's your take on that, man? Again, that might be a player that I think that's linked to Jeff Hafley, and it would be like he said, as Aaron said there in that message to me, really low risk, high reward type possibilities here. So,
yeah, I mean, possibly. I pulled him up on Pro Football Reference, just looking at some of his numbers. Yeah, hasn't looked good recently. Missed a lot of games last year. 22 to 23 seemed to be a good run for him with Detroit and Atlanta. But yeah, last year with the Texans, I don't know. But what is he, 26, 20, 25, 26 years old?
Young, yeah, 26 years old.
He could be a guy that's just looking for the right scenario, right place to play. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, clearly we need depth at corner. If he's familiar with Half and, what it's like playing for him, I mean, there's worse guys to take a crack at, right?
Right. And I think Aaron's saying it's a long shot, but
Oh,
I thought he threw a link to that article, and I thought it was interesting. Like, I could see this being a minimum contract, Jeff Hafley taking a shot on a dude that's played for him in the past. And who knows, man, and, with the expanded practice squad, I haven't heard anything to suggest that they're not going to have that practice squad expanded again. There you go. You have a guy to kind of develop on the practice squad a little bit, and who knows, he may pop, right?
Yep.
I think if Jeff Hafley has any say in the players he's going to bring in this year, that Goody's going to bring in on defense, that would probably be one that he would say, hey, that would be worth a shot. I might be able to unlock what he's got there. Because I'm telling you, you don't get drafted that high without having great potential, man.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, appreciate you bringing that up there in the chat, Aaron. So let's move along here real quick. You know what? Let's save the free agent talk for tomorrow, Tim, since we're kind of up against the gun. We're at the 31-minute mark. Let's just pop up the draft board, the PTA draft board here, and let's just get a quick refresher, okay, of
Nice.
the Packers have been interested in up to this point, I should say. I like to do this because it just kind of keeps our finger on the pulse of, all right, where are these prospects at? What are the positions they're specifically looking for? All those things, okay? So let me get this up on the screen for y'all and make sure that you can read it. This is our draft board, the PTA board here.
Yep. Shout out to Emilio for the cheese curd emojis, right? The
Sir.
cheese block emoji, so we know. I love it.
It's absolutely awesome.
Maybe
man.
if they get a second visit, we'll do a cheese curd. We'll go from a block of cheese to a cheese curd, right?
Or maybe a bowl of elk stroganoff. Maybe we'll go that route. I don't know. But anyway, so what you got here, guys, you see here in the name, you've got the cheese emoji, right? That means the Packers have met with them. They've shown interest in them, right? And again, that some of that can be smoke screen. Some of it could just be they were in the right place at the right time. Hey, let's go talk to this kid, as opposed to actually setting something up specifically. The top 30 visits will get a different icon. We'll make sure that it sticks out from just the overall visits at the combine and all that stuff as well. But here we go. The top ranked prospect on our board that the Packers have shown interest in is defensive lineman Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. Okay. He was at the East-West Shrine Bowl. The Packers met with him and had a cup of coffee with him, talked to him. So again, having him in the 15 spot, you guys know how I feel about Kenneth Grant. What's wild is he was hired before Dane Brugler put his list out. Dane Brugler's got him at 26. The 33rd team had him at 12, and Daniel Jeremiah had him at 18. I know this, man. If he's available when we pick at 23, sign me up, man. I'll be all about it. So there is our boy Kenneth Grant in the 15 spot. I know you wouldn't have any qualms with taking Kenneth Grant at 23, would you?
No, I was going to say put him on that top 5 list, right? If we think he's still going to be on the board, right, at that point. I think if he's there, we probably legitimate chance we take him, right?
Mm-hmm. I do, man. Again, it depends on how Goody sees him, right? That's what it's going to come down to at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Does he see him as a top talent, or does he see him as more as a second round? And that's the thing too. These may be guys that they've kind of got on the fence too. Like, we don't know if we want to put a first round grade on him or a second round grade. Let's try to pick his brain, get a little bit more information on him, and it might be one of those deciding factors. They come away and go, you know what? Let's slap a third round grade on him or whatever it may be, right? In the end. So we'll see how it shakes out, though. Next on the list is my boy Walter Nolan, defensive lineman out of Ole Miss. He comes in at the 23 spot on our board, right there in the sweet spot. Obviously, he absolutely torched it at the Senior Bowl. He got the bonus there. Yeah, he was the 8th highest graded defensive tackle in 2024, according to PFF. Dane Brugler had him at 29. The 33rd team had him at 35, and Daniel Jeremiah had him at 26. So the PFF grades pulled him up the board just a touch to the 23 spot. Walter Nolan, man, sign me up. Again, I like Kenneth Grant more than I like Walter Nolan as we sit here on February 16th. That may change as time goes on. But as it sits right now, man, I'd be okay with either of those defensive tackles. But it's pretty cool. The top 2 guys rated on our board that the Packers have met with are both defensive tackles. I think we're in the right vein there, man.
Yeah, man. You know we want them trenches, right? Especially someone who can play 3 tech. We'll take it.
Got to have it. All right, next on the list, we're going to drop all the way down to 53. Now, this one's an interesting one, right? This is Trey Amos outside corner from Ole Miss. All right. Now, you guys know he was significantly higher before. Well, Dane Brugler has him at 93, and that really pulled him down our board quite a bit. Again, like I said earlier, if Daniel Jeremiah ends up grading him closer to 50 than 100, then he's going to go back up our board a touch, right? Maybe to the 40 mark, somewhere around in there. And what's interesting about this too is there was a mock draft. Was it Daniel Jeremiah? Nope, it was Kyle Krabs from the 33rd team actually had us taking Trey Amos at 23. So the fact that after Dane Brugler's information hits, he drops to 53 on our board, that's a very interesting prospect there. Obviously, an outside corner that would fill that void if Jair does indeed leave the Packers this offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. 6'1", 190, right? Kind of in that sweet spot. We talked about Goody's type there at the position. And I don't know about if Ja is still a Packer if we go with a corner in the first round, but I wouldn't feel bad if we did, even if Ja was still on the Packers, because it gives us more depth on the outside behind Valentine and Keyshawn. And also if we haven't figured things out as far as depth at the slot position, and Keyshawn's going to have to kick into the slot, having another boundary corner, like a Trey Amos would certainly serve us well on defense for sure.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next one on the list. We just go down one spot to the 54 spot. All right, Trey Amos was 53. Princely, I'm just going to call him Princely from here on out. I'm tired of
Million.
Exactly. Edge defender from Ole Miss. So it's actually Ole Miss teammate there of Trey Amos. We have him in the 54 spot. The Packers showed some interest there. 2024, he's the fourth highest graded edge defender. Daniel Jeremiah did not have him in the top 50. 33rd team had him at 53. Dane Brugler had him at 75. So he slides into the 54 spot for us at edge defender. Next, you've got Harold Fannin Jr., a tight end, has entered the chat here, Tim, in the 59 spot out of Bowling Green. Obviously, same alma mater as our boy Carl Brooks. This dude, according to PFF, could have done nothing else to improve his draft stock. He was the top graded tight end both in 23 and 2024. 33rd team has him at 51. Dane Brugler has him at 82. Daniel Jeremiah did not have him in the top 50, but the Packers showed some interest there at tight end. That's very interesting to me, Tim.
Oh, yeah. 6'4", 230. Big old boy. I like it. Definitely was the first. When I started putting my list together, he was the first tight end on the list for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Both in smaller school, but I mean, he's got the age factor too, right? He's going to be 21 in a few months. I mean, sky's the limit for a guy like this.
Yeah, especially someone who could flex out like him. He's not just an attached tight end for sure. So, All right, next on the list, you may have heard of this guy right here, Tim. We got Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. The Packers
Here's the guy.
Packers met with him at the Senior Bowl. He was the fourth highest graded wide receiver in all of 2024. Absolute stud. 33rd team had him all the way down at 79. Dane Brugler had him at 48. Daniel Jeremiah did not have him in the top 50. So I'm eager to see where Daniel Jeremiah ends up putting Jaden Higgins, but a big body receiver, man. What's his measurables again?
6'4", 215 pounds of receiving talent right there out of Iowa State, baby. PFF's got him as the fourth best receiver out of 1,000+ receivers. 57 on the PFF board.
As Daryl said here, too, he's a South Miami native. There you go.
Let's go.
Appreciate the inside information there, Mr. Daryl.
Versatile receiver, too. Well over the threshold in slot snaps. Played out on the boundary, too. Coming off a 1,000-yard season. I mean, yeah, there's a lot to be excited about with Jaden Higgins.
Yeah. 2-0 for this says F it, Jaden down there somewhere before launching
it into triple coverage with both Jaden streaming down the field. I love it. Let's go.
2-on-3. We'll take it. We'll take our chances there.
Yes, sir.
Sure. Love it. All right. So again, Jaden Higgins is sitting in the 61 spot on our board. Up next is another receiver in Jalen Royals. And this guy.
Here's another guy.
Yeah, out of Utah State. Comes out of the same school as Jordan Love. Yeah, PFF grades were pretty steady. He was 69th and 65th at the wide receiver position. The PFF big board had him at 72. Consensus big board had him at 70. 33rd team had him at 83. Dane Brugler has him at 58. What do you got on him, Tim?
Jalen Royals looks like one of those guys that, similar to what we said about Jaden Reed, right? You almost want to go back a year, look at his 2023 numbers. 1,000-yard season, 15 tutters, played 13 games, played a lot more games in 23 than he did in 24. It looks
Here's the guy.
That's right. And, he's kind of that body type too, not quite as big as Jaden Higgins. He's 6 feet, 205, but still solid. And a guy that you certainly want to keep an eye on for sure. PFF's got him 66th out of 1,000+ receivers. 74th overall.
As J. Cole points out here, it's more likely we draft Royals over Higgins. I wouldn't be surprised by that. Again, I've got Higgins above Royals, but I've seen many boards where Royals is higher than Higgins. So,
yep.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't feel bad about either one of them, honestly.
I wouldn't either.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't. All right, next player on the list here is at the 106 spot. Aeneas Peebles, defensive lineman out of Virginia Tech. So we're getting another 3-tech jumping in here. In 2023, he was the 13th highest graded defensive tackle. In 2024, he jumped all the way to 7th. And he is not in Dane Brugler's top 100 or the 33rd team's top 100 or Daniel Jeremiah's top 50. The thing that's really putting him on our board here, guys, is the PFF grade. And then, of course, the PFF big board brung him down quite a bit. He was 170 at the time that we took the information down, and we're going to stick with that with our board. And then 146 on the consensus big board. Where do they have Peebles now on the big board on PFF, Tim?
136 is his rank right now. They've got him, 7th out of 895 D linemen.
There you go. What's his size? What kind of size are we looking at with Peebles?
6'1", 290. However, the Goody DiCaprio factor is real. He's going to be 24 this year, so a little bit older of a prospect.
It seems like too there might be a little precedent there for drafting older defensive tackles.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, Devontae Wyatt was like 23, and that was kind of odd that Goody would go, with that kind of, age on a player, because usually he does, like you said, the DiCaprio effect. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on that, though. Peebles is one of those defensive tackles that maybe if they don't get one of their guys there in the first quarter, whether it's Walter Nolan or it's Kenneth Grant, then maybe you fall back on Peebles a little later, So,
absolutely. Another guy you shouldn't feel bad about picking up. That's kind of like Deion Walker. I feel the same way about him. If we don't swing for the fences early, maybe there's someone in those middle to late rounds available.
All right. And you could kind of see a little bit of a trend around the same spot. Peebles is in 106. Then you just drop down 10 spots, a little less than 10 spots to 115. You got C.J. West out of Indiana at the East-West Shrine Bowl. The Packers met with him. The 14th best defensive tackle in 2023, 21st in 2024. And he was 160 on the PFF big board, then 191 on the consensus big board at the time. What do you got on our boy C.J. West out of Indiana?
We took him in one of our mocks, correct? One of the last ones we did. I believe we picked him up, which I thought was a great pick. I want to say we got him in the 5th or 6th round or something. It was definitely later. PFF's got him at an 83.6 this year for his grade.
Got it. All right, next player, another receiver, Jalen Noel, wide receiver out of Iowa State. Now, that is Jaden Higgins' teammate, correct, Tim? Am I thinking right?
Yep.
So he was 54th in PFF grades amongst wide receivers in 2024. The 33rd team, Kyle Krabs, has him at 95. Dane Brugler actually has him at 72. So you're seeing wide receivers and defensive line really popping up here just beyond the 100 mark on the board. What you got on Jalen Noel?
Yeah, me, I'm after the big body receivers, but there was a handful of sub 6 foot guys that I really liked, and Jalen Noel was on my list, along with Luther Burden, obviously. But Jalen Noel looks good. It's one of those things where I got to do a little bit more tape study on him, because I've watched enough Jaden Higgins film, I think, to last me a lifetime. But you always got to think about that, right? We always talked about that with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Is it Jamar Chase? Is it T. Higgins? Who's feeding off of who? Who's helping who? And I think you're kind of in that same scenario with Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins there out of Iowa State. So, but definitely one of my favorite of the quote unquote smaller stature type receivers in this draft.
Got it. All right. Next prospect, we'll hit a couple more here. We're outside of the top 100 according to our board, so we'll reach a little bit. Jacob Parrish, cornerback from Kansas State. The Packers met with him at the Senior Bowl. We have him in the 134 spot. Kyle Krabs had him at 81. Dane Brugler has him at 86. So they have him significantly higher than where we have him sitting. The thing that hurt him on our board, Tim, he was the 176th highest graded corner in college football. The consensus big board had him at 138. The PFF big board had him at 113. And we are showing a V next to his name, which means he is versatile. He can play outside. He can also play in the slot. What kind of size does Jacob Parrish have out of Kansas State?
He's got the right weight, but he's a little short. He's 5'10", 198. So kind of right at that threshold. But yeah, you're right about the versatility. He's just at the threshold for slot snaps, 91 snaps in the slot last year.
How many box? I'd say the box sent him over, didn't it? Was there some
box is 44. So yeah, if you add those two, for sure he meets it. And then obviously, 400 plus on the boundary.
Got it.
For sure.
Yeah, I what I did was I took the box snaps and the slot snaps and combined them. If it cracked 100, then we'll put a V on them.
Definitely.
And if it's someone that had less than 100 outside snaps, then we'll list them as a slot as opposed to versatile. So I think
good age factor with him too. Barely 21. I believe he's going to be 21 like in the next month or so. So
there you go.
Yep.
Now you're seeing another trend here. We're down to the 157 spot. The Packers also met with Kobe Bryant outside.
Kobe
from Kansas. Dane Brugler's got him at 96. We've got him at 157. So that would, according to Dane Brugler, be really good value if we were to somehow snag him where we have him in the 157 spot. He was the 59th highest graded corner in college football last year. One of the things that's bringing him down significantly here is the PFF big board had him at 220. Where do they have Kobe Bryant at now?
Right now he's at 103.
Ooh, so see, this is why I like to get the information in early, because we're not going to change that. So we have the safer board. And what I mean by that, when you hear me say we've got a safe board, it's these are guys are going to be higher on our board that people were already high on at the end of the college football season before all the hype train cranked up. Doesn't mean Kobe Bryant isn't where PFF has him now or where Dane Brugler has him at 96. I just want our board to be a much safer approach and kind of dodging as much of the hype as we possibly can. So that's interesting. What kind of size does he have, man?
Let's see. Let's look at his
Kobe Bryant.
6'1", 175.
Ooh.
And we might as well go ahead and put the V next to his name too, Clayton, because I'm looking here. It looks like we got 60 snaps in the box, 42 in the slot. That's 102.
Oh.
Put the V on it, and a little bit taller too. So he's in that height range that Goody likes for the corners. So Kobe's definitely one to keep an eye on.
There you go. Versatility goes a long way, no doubt.
For sure.
Let's see here. Next on the list is Tyler Barron, edge defender out of Miami. All right. He was at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Packers met with him. And really the thing that helped him out the most was at the end of the season, the PFF big board had him in the 88 spot. Consensus big board had him at 127. So where is he at now?
This is the guy out of Miami, right?
Yeah, Tyler Barron, edge defender out of Miami, Florida.
Yeah, 6'5", 260. Let's go.
Man.
PFF's got him at 144, 157th of 869 edge defenders.
Where do they have him on the big board ranking?
144.
144. Okay, so he's actually dropped since the end of the season. This is what I'm talking about. It works both ways.
Yeah.
What the hell could have possibly happened for him to drop 60 spots? You know what I'm saying, Tim? Like,
yeah, I don't
there's
know.
no more footballs being played. So now, did he have a bad East-West Shrine Bowl? That could have been the case. I only give bump ups for the All-Star week. I don't. I would much rather say
down. Yeah,
exactly. I would much rather say, hey, look, his tape throughout the season suggests that he's a damn good football player. And then if you carry that over to All-Star week and you perform at All-Star week, I want that to improve. I never want to take away. It's just my personal opinion. So Tyler Barron, again, like you said, 6'5", man, that's wild. So he's got that prototypical type body, no doubt. Next is Jordan Phillips, defensive tackle out of Maryland. He was at the East-West Shrine Bowl. 33rd team has him in 78 spot. Dane Brugler has him at 73. He comes in at the 168 spot on our board. Where do you have Jordan Phillips out of Maryland, defensive tackle, Tim?
105.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he was 273, Tim. 273 on the PFF big board at the end of the year.
Wow.
And now he's 105, you said?
Yeah.
Wow. That's big difference. That's very interesting there. And again, the hype, many people believe it's real because the 33rd team having him at 78 and then Dane Brugler having him at 73, man, it says a lot.
6'3", 320, man. Big old dog right there. 243 snaps B gap, 283 snaps A gap. Man, I almost wonder, is there some hidden value here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt.
Out of Maryland. Keep an eye on Jordan Phillips.
I could throw him on a list and take a look at the tape for sure.
Sure.
Next, you got Bryce Cabledew, offensive tackle out of Kansas. He was at the East-West Shrine Bowl. The Packers met with him, the 35th highest graded tackle in all of college football last year. He wasn't even on the consensus big board. That may have changed. We'll go back and double check that here this coming week and kind of get the board updated again. He's someone that's PFF grades look solid. Where does the big board had him at 266 on PFF's website at the time? Where do they have him now?
He has dropped a lot. 304 right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So the Packers might be looking at him as one of those guys that late round, possibly undrafted free agent too. So
another monster, 6'6", 315, big boy, for sure.
Next, you've got Efton Chisholm, wide receiver from Eastern Washington, small school, obviously East-West Shrine Bowl. Guys, he was the top graded wide receiver in all of college football. When you remove, you can add all the small schools in as well. He had the best grade. The consensus big board had him at 267. The PFF big board had him at 242. Where's he at on the big board now on PFF, man? He was at 242. Where's he at now?
He's up. He's at 211 now.
Okay, so slowly climbing. There you go. Really impressed. Obviously, we talked about it when we did our live stream during the East-West Shrine Bowl. He was one of those dudes that was making plays, no doubt. Next, you got cornerback Corey Thornton. We talked a little bit about him earlier today. He's out of Louisville. Cornerback Corey Thornton. He is sitting in the 188 spot on our board. He was the 51st highest graded corner in college football last year. He was not on the PFF big board when we took this information down. The consensus big board had him at 223. Is he on the PFF big board yet, Tim?
Corey with a K or a C?
I'm showing a C, but that might be the problem we got. It may be a K. Thornton with an N, though. Thornton. If you search that, see if his last name pops up.
Nope.
Okay.
That's Dante Thornton Jr. out of Tennessee. That's it.
Okay. So he's still not on the PFF big board. Maybe he'll make his debut on that this coming week. So
hold on there. Have we talked about Dante Thornton Jr., though, out of Tennessee?
I don't think we have.
Holy crap. I think we just found someone on accident. Wait a minute. 6'5", 214. Graded out at an 80.2. PFF's got him listed as 220 right now, but 58th of all receivers.
We got him right here.
Yeah. Where's he at on our board?
He is 273. The reason being the consensus big board had him at 306. PFF had him at 220. Where are you saying he's at now?
He's at 220 still on PFF.
Still 220. Okay. Yeah. And he was the 58th highest graded wide receiver. So, what was his grade again, Tim?
80.2.
Yeah, not bad. And listen,
I can't believe he's not on my short list. He's 6'5". I can't believe I missed that guy.
Tim missed one. There you go. Yeah, and playing at Tennessee, obviously, I know Big Ten people hate hearing this, but I say the same thing about Big Ten talent. If you're playing in the Big Ten, you're playing in the SEC, you're going against some of the top talent in the country, obviously. So it's not like one of the smaller schools.
Daryl says he can't block.
He can't block.
Yep, 6'5", 214, but sucks at run blocking. I'll
tell you this, Daryl. He better understand if he comes to Green Bay, no block, no rock, right, Tim? We've said it 1,000 times. That's just the way.
No block, no rock.
Right, Coach. Appreciate that. All right, so we'll get ready to wrap up here, Tim. We got a question from Drew, though. Actually, let me just leave my board up here. If you could highlight one player you haven't talked about much, who would it be? This is tough. It's tough for me, Drew, because I'm not a guy that goes and scouts a bunch of players and says, man, I really like these guys right here. those are my dudes. Watch the tape. I really like them. I'm more about the data. Look at the draft as a whole. How is the horizontal board going to shake out? Where are the clusters? What are we going to use as cluster busters? All those different things. If I were to go down this list, though, in terms of players that we have not talked a lot about, and maybe we have, and you guys correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, there's two people that come to mind here toward the top of the draft that I feel like we haven't talked enough about. One of them is Tetairoa McMillan, and I'm telling you guys, I've been doing this for a while, and it's rare that you get a receiver that grades out like that. Like last year we had our boy Marvin Harrison Jr., right? He was our top receiver, elite talent, right? We had him at a minus 2.7. Okay, so let me just give you this. Let's do it this way. Tetairoa McMillan, 11.9 is his grade. Where would he have been? Who would he have been clustered with last year? There was no one in that range but Chop Robinson, edge defender out of Penn State, around that spot. Quinyon Mitchell was an 8.8, so very close. J.C. Latham, tackle out of Alabama. You had Byron Murphy, defensive lineman out of Texas. Jerzon Newton, guys like that. Jared Verse was a 16.8, so that's really close to that same range. That's why I look at Tetairoa McMillan. I'm like, man, if people don't fall in love with that big body dude and he falls in the draft, that could be wide receiver 1. It could. That's a guy. And then the other guy is Malachi Starks. I really like Malachi Starks as well. He's a safety, but what we uncovered the other day there, Tim, played a little bit of slot too. Do you still got your PFF big board up, Tim?
I sure do.
Can you look up Malachi Starks and remind me? And I may be misremembering. I want to say he played quite a few snaps in the slot. I could be wrong, though.
Malachi Starks.
Georgia.
From Georgia. 271 snaps in the slot. I would say combined with 215 in the box, I think he's there.
So that's a guy that it does kind of grab my attention. Now, I'm not saying you take him at 23, but I just feel like there's not enough people talking about him, Drew. That's just my personal opinion. Again, Drew's question, Tim, was if you could highlight one player you haven't talked much about, or talked about much, I should say, who would it be? Do you have a player that comes to mind for you or not?
I do. We actually mentioned it on the morning show a little bit with Jacob, and that's Jalen Smith, corner out of USC. Versatile corner, another guy that meets the pretty close to the threshold as far as being able to play down in the box or the slot, but primarily a boundary guy. 5'11", 190, so right at that threshold of the body type that Goody likes. Kind of sneaky good, 82.6 last year. PFF's got him 193 overall, 33rd best corner in the draft. So I would say Jalen Smith would be my pick.
We got him at 197 on our board, and we do have the V on him, so he must have had a combine of slot and box. But like you said, predominantly played outside, I'm sure. So, yeah, that's an interesting prospect there.
It seems like that move happened too between 23 and 24 because way more slot. He had 462 snaps in the slot in 2023, so he was pure slot in 23. 2024, they put him to the outside a little bit more. And he graded out in the 80s, so clearly he can handle it for sure. Passer rating when targeted, 62.5.
There you go. All right. Hey, this was a fun show, man. I think we covered a lot. Kind of give you guys a little bit of inside info into who the Packers were meeting with, that type of thing. You're welcome, Drew. Thank you for the question, man. We love those type of questions for sure. That hopefully that gives you a little bit better idea of some of the players that the Packers have met with. And again, we've got it charted here. 7 defensive linemen. I'm sorry. I need to specify. 7 defensive tackles, 6 cornerbacks, 4 edge defenders, 4 wide receivers, 3 offensive linemen, 2 linebackers, 1 tight end, 1 slot that happened to be a safety that we just listed as a slot, and then a kicker as well. So if you go strictly off of that chart right there, you're looking at defensive tackle and cornerback seems to be at the forefront of Goody's mind early in this process here in terms of meeting with guys. So what we'll do in the morning, Tim, we will hit some of my favorite free agents, and we'll talk about what their market value is. I just got a short list together, and we'll have a conversation with the chat tomorrow morning to see, hey, do you guys think these guys are worth their market value? We got names that some we've already talked about, some of them we haven't because I combed through. I actually found a linebacker I like for the price that they got listed at, and I want to get your all's take on it. So there you go, Carly Ray. Yeah, kicker, the show just got way better. No, it didn't, Carly. This show sucks. That being, Daryl says Clay forgot the long snapper. LOL. There you go.
Boy.
Got to get that long snapper talk in for sure, Daryl. All right, that's it. Tim, you got anything else, big dog?
No kicker talk until we sign McManus. Let's just that'll be the kicker talk I'm waiting for right there.
Mark my words. If and when we re-sign Brandon McManus, I'm doing a giveaway. We're giving something away. I don't care what it is. We're giving something away. So let's just all keep our fingers and toes crossed and hope that he makes it back to the Packers. Because I'm telling you, if we draft a rookie kicker and we go through what we went through last year, I'm going to lose my mind. Boz says it's all rigged anyway.
So, we're going to give him some.
All right, guys. Thank y'all so much. If you would hit that like button on the way out, feel free to sub to the channel if this is your first time in here. Hopefully we didn't scare you off. But honestly, this show is way suckier than it was tonight normally. So you probably won't be around very long. But with that being said, we'll see you in the morning, 8:30 a.m. Central for Good Morning Lambeau. Everybody have a great night. Y'all take care.
There we go.
Bye, guys.